Welcome back to the Jenks Island Podcast. We took a week off last week with just a break because of scheduling issues, and there really wasn't much NFL news to talk about. But this week's episode, Ethan and I are going to be breaking down the NFL, NFC, and AFC South divisions. This week, we're going to be breaking down the South. Next week, we'll break down another division, and the next 2 weeks after that, we'll break down the final four divisions. And that way, leading up to preseason, we have all of the division breakdowns and previews out for you guys. We're going to be ranking the teams of each division, the quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, and tight ends of each division as well. That way, you kind of get a good preview for the fantasy season, as well as what we think team-wise and things like that for the playoffs, and power ranking-wise, kind of what we're going to think of these teams as the season goes on. Starting first, we'll go with the NFC South, as Ethan and I are both Saints fans, a little bit of bias towards them, but I promise I'll keep that out of the rankings and everything here today. For the teams-wise, Ethan, so number one, obviously, I'm going to have the Bucs. At number two, I'm going to have the Falcons. A dagger for me to say that, but Falcons at number 2. 3, I have the Saints. And then 4, I'm going to keep the Panthers at the bottom for now. But I think this division, Ethan, you go ahead with your team, and then I'll kind of give a little bit more of a wider explanation.
Yeah, my team rankings?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would probably also have the Bucs at number 1, and then Falcons at number 2. I think those two are kind of in a tier. I don't think they're that far apart. And then I probably would have the Panthers above the Saints right now, but it's neck and neck. So
yeah.
And I feel like that's being unbiased. Like the Panthers had like one of the worst D-lines last year, and they took 2 guys in the draft in the second and third round. Nick Scorton, like being in the second round, I think that was a really good pick. He could have been a first rounder. But you are still betting on kind of 2 rookies to get you over the hill there. So I think they brought in Trevon Merrick as well. So like they're doing some like patchwork on the defense. But yeah, I just think like that team is still a little far away, rather than like people just seeing like kind of the end of last season through rose-colored glasses. And I feel like the Saints are building through the line, building through the trenches. You have a young, hopefully good O-line. And I feel like betting on upsides on either sides of the line kind of evens out for me. So I would keep those in the same tier, but if I had to choose, probably Carolina above the Saints right now.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. That's kind of where I was going to go to with my explanation of the rankings. Is like, I think the Falcons and the Bucs are obviously, I think, the most well-rounded team. I think the Falcons, their offense was improving towards the end of the year last season, and that was kind of a signal of what's to come this year. So they're going to be a little bit, I think, above both the Saints and Panthers. And I think the Saints and Panthers, it's a complete toss-up, because going into the season, Bryce Young, obviously, towards the end of the last season, looked pretty solid, but I think there's still room for him just to kind of be an average quarterback. And the Saints, we'll talk about the quarterbacks and the rest of that team in a little bit, but they still have a solid offense. I think the offensive line, they built that up in the draft, and this offseason, they're going to be all fully healthy. Last year, they were dealing with a lot of issues. But when that group was healthy, they were one of the best O-lines in the league run blocking wise. And I think what Kellen Moore is going to come in and do as a head coach, just run the football. So I want to see what they do, but I think the offense is at least set up for somewhat success for the rookie quarterback or Spencer Rattler, whoever it is.
Sustainability.
Chuck or Rattler. Yeah, exactly. I think it's kind of just, you're not throwing him into something where whatever quarterback has to just throw the ball every single down. You're going to be able to rely on that run game, and that helps him out a little bit. So Saints and Panthers are definitely the bottom 2. That order that those 2 teams come in, you could put it probably however you want, in my opinion. So I wouldn't argue anyone if they had those teams either order. Next, I guess we'll just go with the quarterbacks next. We'll go, Ethan, I'll let you do your rankings first, and I'll do mine second.
Okay. So I would probably go Baker at 1. Okay. I know some people like Baker a hell of a lot more than I do.
Yeah.
And then at 2, I would probably, I feel like Penix and Bryce are in like the same sort of tier. To be honest, like they're probably as close as you can get. I would probably go Penix just for the arm talent, and his stature is just a little taller than Bryce. So I feel like he has a higher ceiling than Bryce does.
Okay. I think that's fair.
But as of right now, I think they're literally neck and neck. And then just because we haven't seen anything from Shook, I would put him 4. But I think he can show some stuff to get probably not to the best quarterback in this division if Baker keeps that same level of play, which I think is a little overrated. But I think he could definitely leap above Bryce Young and Michael Penix if they're having a little bit of an off seasons and Chuck steps in and shows some stuff right away.
Yeah, no, my order is basically the same. I mean, Baker Mayfield obviously is at the top right now. And like you said, if you've listened to Ty talk about Baker Mayfield, he loves Baker Mayfield. He's very high on him. I think he had him in the top 10 this year. And to me, I think Baker Mayfield's like an average quarterback in the NFL. He's going to win if you give him something good around him. And the Bucs at every single level of the offense have good things around him. So I think he's set up the most for success out of all the 4 quarterbacks in this division. And then, like you just said, I think Bryce Young, Michael Penix, however order you want. I think I have Bryce Young above Michael Penix just because I've seen more from Bryce. And I think he was also a little bit more, he has more experience, and at the end of the year, he looked a little bit better than Michael Penix. He was still a little bit shaky. And then Tyler Shough, Spencer Rattler, whoever starts for the Saints, going to start out at 4. But like you said, I think they could jump all the way up to 2 if they ball out like they could under Kellen Moore. Next, we got running backs. So for running backs wise, I'm going to go Bucky Irving at number 1. And I know that's going to get a lot of hate. Everyone, all the Bijan Robinson stands out there are going to be coming at my throat right now. And yeah, Ethan, I'll let you give your argument for the ladder of Bijan Robinson. And I think for me, Bucky Irving is extremely explosive. He's done more with less carries than I think Bijan Robinson has. And I think that's the reason I have him above him at this moment in time. I think Bijan Robinson, obviously, though, extremely talented. I wouldn't even say there's really that much of a gap in between these two in my ranking. I think it's kind of just a 1A, 1B, if I'm being honest, and you could put them however you want, because I think both of these guys are easily the two of the top 10 in the league. Bijan, everyone's putting him in the top 5. I would put Bucky Irving, if he has another year like he did last year and gets more carries than he did last year over Rachaad White and Sean Tucker, he could be a top 5 guy as well. Just talent wise, I think he could truly be there as well. At number 3, I have Alvin Kamara. I think Alvin, under Kellen Moore's system and with an O-line that improved this offseason, he'll be right back to where he normally is if that O-line stays healthy. And if he stays healthy, he'll have another productive season. And Chuba Hubbard at number 4. I just want to say this real quick as well. I think this is one of the best divisions fantasy-wise for running backs. I think if you draft any of these guys, if you draft any of these guys running backs-wise in fantasy, you're pretty set up for success. And I think if you get Alvin Kamara in like the later rounds, because he's been falling for whatever reason fantasy-wise, you're going to get a really good value there in the fantasy draft. Chuba Hubbard as well. Ethan, what are your thoughts on that running back ranking? And I'll let you fight for Bijan Robinson as well.
Yeah, so I do have Bijan considerably above Bucky. I don't think Bucky's bad or anything. I think the main selling point with Bucky is like the vision and the contact balance. Mm-hmm. I also think he's explosive as well, but I think Bijan is better at all 3 things of those than Bucky. And he's also a better receiving back. And also his offensive environment just isn't as good as the Bucs had last year.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think Cohen did a lot of good for that run game. The O-line blocked very, very well in the run game. And Bucky, didn't play all of the snaps, didn't even play the majority of the snaps of the year, I don't think.
Yeah.
So he's getting to come in and kind of get those high energy, high efficiency touches, whereas Bijan is kind of being used weirdly. He's been used weirdly kind of his entire career, which not long, obviously. But I think Bijan, honestly, is a 2,200 yard from scrimmage ceiling type of guy, to be honest. And it could be this year. And that's the kind of guy you just want to put the ball in his hands over and over and over again, because he makes people miss in ways that you didn't even think were possible. I remember his first NFL touch, and I was like, "Oh man, we have to play against this."
And then they only gave him a few more carries the rest of the game, which is
I know, ridiculous. I don't know why. Maybe there's something wrong with the guy, but like everything I see, he's a super nice guy. Like joy to be around in the locker room. So I don't know. Yeah, I would have him as top 3 back in the NFL. But then number 2, yeah, I'd probably go with Bucky, especially if it's for the upcoming year. AK obviously has that body of work, and AK's one of my guys, a Saints fan. But I feel like I would go with Bucky for kind of all the reasons that you stated. AK is still number 3 for me, and number 4, Chuba Hubbard. So yeah, I was thinking like this is pretty stacked for RBs in the division. Like I was thinking like what could really be better of this? Like maybe the NFC West. Like I don't even know. I guess like the worst back in there would be like James Conner, maybe, or like for Christian McCaffrey. But this is really, really good.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I was looking at it too when I was just making the ranking. I'm like, holy shit! Like this actually is a very stacked division running back wise. Especially when you look at like the Bucs, like they have 3 solid running backs. The Falcons, they have 2. The Saints, depending on if everyone can stay healthy in that room, you have a couple of solid running backs possibly, and then Chuba Hubbard as well.
I think we have one, but yeah.
I think the Saints, they have, I'm just going to say that they have like 7 running backs on the depth chart right now, which is just insane. We're going to obviously cut a few.
It's not what you want to see.
I want to see just the second guy, like actually really set up for success. I want to see Devin Neal come out and succeed. Because I think he really could behind Alvin as well. But yeah, I just think this running back room in the division is really, really solid. Next, we got the receivers, and I know like the foul clown bias is looking like it's there right now, but I'll say this right now: Drake London and Darnell Mooney, I think, are easily the best wide receiver duo in this division. And I think I know Ty's going to hate me for that because he's a big fan of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin as a duo. Darnell Mooney and Drake London are both healthy going into the season. I think that bumps him up for me. And Darnell Mooney had 900 yards last year as a guy that was silently going under the radar all of last season as a producer for that team. And I think Drake London's numbers are only going to go up with Michael Penix relying on him this season. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, obviously a year older. I still think he'll get to his 1,000 yard mark. I think Chris Godwin's going to come back and I think he'll be all right. But he is obviously dealing with an injury, rehab, things like that. I think that'll put him down a step a little bit. And then they have a few other receivers, right? They're still a solid team. They're going to get their job done at the receiver room. At number 3, I have Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. I think these guys, if both stay healthy, could really have a huge season on it. If I'm being honest, I think they could, just with a rookie quarterback having to rely on those 2 guys. At number 4, I got T-Mac and Adam Thielen or Xavier Legette, whoever steps up as that true receiver 2 for them as well. So Ethan, what are your thoughts on that? Where would you rank these guys for you?
Yeah, so I would have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin above the Falcons. I don't think it's that crazy that you have them above them though. Chris Godwin's just shown you that like when he's on the field, he's incredibly effective.
When he's healthy.
Also, when he's healthy, but also you have Emeka Egbuka as a wide receiver too.
Is huge.
And I think we both had him wide receiver 2 in the class. So like we're obviously huge fans of him. Don't like to see him go to the Bucs. If they're getting fed in like the same situation as a wide receiver 2, I would rather have Emeka Egbuka than Darnell Mooney, especially
I think that's fair.
Like for the upcoming season with Darnell being a little older. So that's another like tiebreaker that I would kind of put in the Bucs' favor. And then I would have the Falcons at 2. 3, I would have the Saints. I hope they use Rashid Shaheed, who actually met in the airport the other day.
Yeah, shout out to Rashid. That's awesome.
Yeah, shout out to Rashid. Nice guy. I hope they use him kind of more in open space as like more of like a Jameson Williams type of touches. Still keep him on those like deep hole shots, but I feel like running across the field on like those the crossing type routes, I feel like he's going to be really effective if they use him on those. And then I would put the Panthers at 4. I love T-Mac. He was like a top 5 guy for me in the draft overall. But you really don't have a solidified wide receiver 2. I like Jalen Coker as well, but like Adam Thielen is getting up there. I'm not a big Xavier Legette guy, so then kind of having a hole at the wide receiver 2 spot, I'd probably put them number 4.
Yeah, no, and I like that you brought up Rashid Shaheed on the crossing routes. I think people underrate how fast he truly is, and obviously he's coming off of a knee injury. We'll see if that hindered him, but from everything we're seeing and from everything the beat reporters are saying, he hasn't lost a step at all. And what happened with the Saints offense, it seemed, is Derek Carr hated throwing the crossing routes. Yeah, I really felt like he wasn't throwing them a whole lot in his tenure with the Saints. And I think with Tyler Shuck coming in, he's a guy that rolls out a little bit more, is more comfortable throwing on the rollout a little bit more. And I think that will just blend with Rashid Shaheed as a crossing route kind of guy as well. And I really don't mind you bringing up Emeka Egbuka and having him as a receiver too, even for the Bucks, because I think he really is.
Chris Godwin is out.
Yeah. I think he could really be a really solid receiver. Like you just said, we both had him as the receiver too in the draft class, because I think he is extremely polished. He is a guy that can just immediately be plug and play, do whatever you need as a receiver. So we'll see. I think those two, again, 1A, 1B, I really wouldn't mind either way being argued. Next, moving on to tight ends here. This is where it drops off a little bit skill-wise for the division. Finally, there's a little bit more of a drop-off here. Tight ends, at number 1, I'm going to go Cade Otton. At number 2, I'm going to go Kyle Pitts. 3, Juwan Johnson. And then 4, Tommy Tremble or Jatavion Sanders, whoever it is. I know Jatavion's coming off a knee injury into this season. Or is he a knee injury or something else? I know he's injured coming this season. I'm pretty sure.
It might have been shoulder. I could be wrong though.
I might be confusing the rookie running back coming in Brooks or whatever. But so that's my tight end rankings. Ethan, what are your thoughts on that, and where would you rank the guys?
Yeah, this is like the opposite of the RB group. It kind of sucks. I'd probably have it the exact same. Like Otten's shown that like even for a couple games he can kind of run an offense through him, which is pretty atypical for a tight end. Mm-hmm. And then like Kyle Pitts, I guess in theory he's better than Juwan Johnson. Juwan Johnson's better at catching touchdowns. Kyle Pitts isn't going to throw it to the other team, or Juwan Johnson's not going to throw it to the other team either.
Michael Penix learned that the hard way.
Yeah. So I might have Juwan Johnson above Kyle Pitts.
Okay.
But yeah, and then I would have the Panthers last. Not much to say about this group.
Yeah. I think the funniest thing you mentioned, like between Kyle Pitts and Juwan Johnson, is Kyle Pitts, and we talk about it every single season and offseason, is this guy has all of the potential in the world. We just got to see it come to fruition. We just got to see him actually make some plays, because we haven't seen it yet. And then Juwan Johnson on the other side, he's a guy that one game will show up for 70 yards, a touchdown, and like 5 catches, and the next he'll have 0 for 0 yards. Like he just absolutely disappears in games. And then there's moments where he has insane plays. Like he had the end of the Bucks game, or end of the season against the Bucks 2 seasons ago. He was like disappeared for 3 straight games. And then he has a catch down the seam where he has to do a front flip while he's catching the ball. And you're like, what the hell, Juwan, where was this all year? So Juwan Johnson. Yeah, exactly. Like Juwan Johnson led the Saints in receiving last year. And he was didn't really seem like much of a factor for the offense. So both of those guys, I think, have potential. Obviously, I don't think Juwan Johnson has the potential that Kyle Pitts has. Both of those guys have potential to be good weapons for the offense. I just want to see both of those guys actually go out and do it. So we'll see if they can do that this year. Next, moving on to the AFC South. This is a little bit of honestly, I think both of these divisions are probably the worst of their conferences. They're a little bit iffy. I know there could be some arguments made probably for maybe in the AFC, but I think the NFC South is definitely the weakest at the moment in the NFC. AFC South wise though, Ethan, what are you going to rank your teams in this division?
Yeah. So I'm going to go the Texans at number 1, and then I'm going to go Jags, then Colts, then Titans.
Yep.
So I think we are in lockstep there. The Texans, I don't think there's any way an O-line can be that bad again. Might be famous last
we'll words, see, man. We'll see. Yeah,
we'll see. But I do have faith in Stroud. I love their defense. Like their defense is just actually a joy to watch. Like I love safeties that just smack people. Like it's so fun to watch. And then they got a good culture there with D'Amico Ryans. And then, I feel like they are going to bounce back, like a bit of a sophomore slump for Stroud, but I have faith in him. And then the Jags getting Cohen, I feel like was a big move. That's enough to get you the Colts over the Colts and the Titans, in my opinion. Colts, honestly, you could put them at 4 because I don't even know what they are. Like the receiving core is good,
Yeah.
but like they have like, is Zaire Franklin even healthy? I don't know if Zaire Franklin's healthy. But yeah, the Titans I'm putting down there because like their supporting cast is still not that great, and I do like Cam Ward, but that's not enough for them to move out of like the 3-4 spot for me.
Yeah. No, I have the exact same rankings: Texans, Jaguars, Colts, and Titans. And like you said, I think the Texans, obviously, even with a shitty abysmal O-line, they still were able to win that division this year. So it was last year. So I think this year, if they go in and it's the same, I think they could still obviously go out and win it again. Jaguars will improve this year. I think they improved in the draft, going and getting Travis Hunter. That's a huge get for them. Liam Cohen is a huge get for them. So they'll improve. I think the Colts, obviously, quarterback situation is absolutely terrible right now. So we got to figure out how that plays out through the rest of the season and the preseason. And then the Titans, like you just said, I think Cam Ward has a good future ahead of him, but that supporting cast and everything right now isn't great. They're still rebuilding. So I have hope for them, but right now that it's obviously not where you would want it to be. Ideally.
Do you like Callahan? I don't know how I feel about Callahan. I don't think he's that great of a coach. Like every time, kind of just felt like you got hit with the leftovers that 2 seasons ago, and now you're just kind of stuck with it.
I was honestly kind of surprised they stuck with him this offseason. Mm-hmm. I know, like, you don't want to go one and done, or if it was one, I think it was one and done if they fired him this season. You don't want to do that, right, to an NFL coach. You kind of want to give him that second opportunity. But he just really looked all over the place. And I think every time he popped up on my TV, I'm like, this guy doesn't know how to lead a NFL team. Like, he just didn't seem like he had control of that team, that situation. And I didn't like seeing that. Obviously, I'm not like a Titans beat reporter, so I don't know the locker room and how they respond to him in the actual locker room. But just from what you're seeing when you're watching the games, it didn't really feel like he was leading that team, and that I don't want to say respected him, because I'm not sure, but it just didn't really feel, like I already said, like that he was leading that team to something else, to something to get them over the hump of sucking in the NFL. So we'll see how they do this year. Obviously, I want to see a little bit more from him. I like that you brought up that question, because I think out of the 4 coaches, I think he is probably the worst, in my opinion, in this division. Obviously, he could maybe move up if they go and win a bunch more games this year with Cam Ward coming in. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan. Moving on to quarterbacks. At number 1, obviously, I'm going to go with CJ Stroud. Number 2, I think I'm going to go with Trevor Lawrence. 3, Cam Ward. And then 4, Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson, whoever starts there, even Riley Leonard, if he somehow comes in and wins the training camp competition. I don't really have too much to say here. I think CJ Stroud, obviously, sophomore slump, but he was the most sacked quarterback in the league, and he was just dealing with pressure constantly. And we saw it in the playoffs. I think the guy really was the pressure was getting to him just from getting hit every single play, it felt like. And you could tell he wasn't making smart decisions with the football, and ultimately lost in that game against the Chiefs. They could have probably beat the Chiefs if it wasn't for a few of his bad mistakes in that game. Trevor Lawrence, we still haven't seen what we expected from him out of college, but I think he obviously, with the supporting cast now, this is his most opportune season to go and actually show us that he can be that quarterback that we thought he was out of college. Number 3, Cam Ward, obviously the most slept on first overall pick in the last few years, bar none. This guy isn't getting talked about enough as the number 1 draft pick. He could come in and turn the Titans around. Do I see that happening? I'm not really sure, but I think Cam Ward is definitely above Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson at this point in time. And then Daniel Jones, nothing else needs to really be said. I think he's all right. I think he'd be a bottom 5 quarterback starting wise in the NFL. So he belongs to the bottom of this division. So not too much to say there. Next, or Ethan, did you do your rankings? No, I didn't let you do your rankings. Go ahead with your.
No, but they're they kind of speak for themselves. Like, I feel like these guys are all clearly in their own tier.
Yeah.
CJ Stroud can actually raise the ceiling of an offense. I feel confident that he's going to take a step forward from last year. Trevor Lawrence, I feel like, is a weirdly misunderstood player. I feel like he gets a lot of hate. But 2 years ago, or I guess not including last season, but the 2 seasons before that, he threw for 4K. And his rookie year was kind of a nightmare. But also I don't have enough confidence to put him over Stroud. And he's definitely above Cam Warren as of now. So, and Cam Warren's definitely above Daniel Jones. So I feel like this is literally as clear of like a food chain as it gets in this division.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely fair. Next, moving on to running backs, we got Jonathan. Oh, sorry, my rankings. I'll go rankings real quick. Jonathan Taylor at number 1, Joe Mixon at number 2, Tony Pollard at 3, and then Travis Etienne at number 4. I think all of these guys, I think in kind of like quarterbacks, it's a similar food chain type situation here, but I want to hear your thoughts on these rankings and your rankings as well for the running backs.
Yeah, I would have them pretty much the exact same. I think this is like a clear like food chain all the way down, but I honestly think like pretty much all these guys are like a little overrated. But if they're all overrated, then it doesn't really matter in accordance to the rankings to each other. So I will say with like Travis Etienne, like he could easily not be there even like week 2. It could be like another guy like taking over. It could be Tootin. I like Quinn Allen a lot out of Syracuse. Okay, like he's obviously like not going to be like a lead back or whatever. Like you can line him up in the slot. Like literally Syracuse did that and he looked like an actual demon. But yeah, I probably Travis Etienne is the best running back right now. But I would have it in this exact order.
Would you take Tootin over Bigsby right now?
Yeah.
Okay. I bought stock in Bigsby in fantasy after his was it 1 or 2 games where he seemed like he was about to go off the rest of the season, and then he just didn't see the field again.
That just seems like a Zamir White type of thing. Like big bruising back is like who else is going to get the carries? That happened like mid-season as like in contrast to like an off season last year, which is why we really saw like the Zamir White thing like go up, and then just bottom fell out.
It was so bad.
It was really bad.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought up LaQuint Allen because so when we did our running back episode, however many long months ago, that was a guy that he was towards the end of my rankings for running backs, but I really liked what I saw from him. I was like, this is a guy that don't be surprised if he somehow gets the NFL as an unnamed guy, and he does have production and he actually comes out and balls out and surprises people. So we'll see what happens with that Jaguars as the preseason.
I'm excited for it because I think he's going to be used in creative ways with Cohen. So
and he's even with his he has the weirdest like stature and size for a guy that can pass catches as well as he does out of the backfield. He's a really good pass catcher, and it just like I don't know if
he legitimately like mosses people.
Yeah,
he legitimately mosses people.
And he's just a dog. Like when you're just watching a tape, I'm like, this guy's just a dog. Like he has the dog factor when I'm watching his tape. Yeah. So we'll see what happens there at Jaguars camp. That's going to be a running back room to watch throughout camp for sure.
I can see it right now. Just crazy catch clip of LaQuint Allen. Is he a top 5 fantasy RB? Like, I can see it right now.
Boards getting broken. Yeah, like he's just gonna ascend up boards really quick.
Yes,
it'll be like mid-August, and you'll hear LaQuint Allen and his ADP. Where's his ADP at? Where's his ADP? So we'll see. After we're done with the divisions, though, we'll be in preseason training camp stuff, and we'll be starting fantasy episodes up. So we'll get into all those discussions then.
LaQuint Allen RB1. You heard it here first.
Ooh, Ethan calling a shot. Okay.
No, I'm an RB1 overall.
Yeah. RB1 is above Bijan Sacred. Yeah, we'll see. Next, moving on to receivers. So this one, the AFC South is a little fun for receivers, and at least for the first few teams. When you get to the bottom, it's not as fun. But at number 1, I'm going to go Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter. I like that combo a lot. I think the Texans are at number 2, Nico Collins, and whoever ends up being receiver 2 for them. They have a few different options. Right now, I have it as Jaden Higgins. I think he'll be that receiver 2 at this moment in time. Number 3, and this is more because of quarterback play. I think these two could be really, really solid if you put them in like another team, but Michael Pittman Jr. and Josh Downs, these are 2 guys that I think have all the talent in the world. And you also have Alec Pierce there to throw to for these quarterbacks. those three are extremely talented, and I just feel bad for the guys having to play with such shitty quarterbacks. And you saw with Michael Pittman, he got paid, and then he had a dip last season, and it was just because the quarterbacks weren't giving him the football. So that kind of sucks to see. And then at number 4, obviously, I'm going to go with the Titans with Calvin Ridley and Tyler Lockett. Whoever else is going to be the receiver 2 down there. Ethan, what are your thoughts on that, and where would you rank the receiver duos?
Yeah, so obviously I would have Ridley and Lockett down at the bottom. That's probably, I can't think off the top of my head, a worse wide receiver duo in the NFL.
It's
pretty bad.
That's
pretty bad. Yeah, I would have Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter number 1. We saw like crazy freak show stuff from Brian Thomas last year, and having the pressure off of Travis Hunter to be like, not that he can't handle pressure or anything, but for him to be a wide receiver 2 is like pretty insane. Nico Collins, I think, is like a top 4, top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. So he's good enough to have you second in this division just by himself. And then you can kind of throw whoever you want in there. I think Jane Higgins and Jalen Noel are like rock solid. Like you probably won't be able to tell in the season which is the wide receiver 2, which is the wide receiver 3. And I think that's going to be like a perfect fit for like that Texans offense. Yeah. And then I would have the Colts number 3. You got Michael Pittman, Josh Downs. I think those are the best 2 wide receivers there. But like you said, you had Alec Pierce, who's like one of the best wide receiver 3s in the NFL. And then you have A.D. Mitchell, who I was a huge fan of. And he's like one of the best separators in the NFL, if only he gets like targeted and only if he can catch the ball.
Anthony Richardson, yeah, there was some bad moments there.
Yeah, well, he's also not great at catching the ball. A.D. Mitchell wasn't. So which wasn't a problem in college.
Yeah,
which wasn't a problem in college. And then like that pick 6 that he threw, or like the pick against the Broncos. Oh my god, that was just a mess. But yeah, like 1 through 4 on that Colts wide receiver room is extremely talented. Like there's no reason that any quarterback should like not be able to produce with those weapons. But I would still have that number 3 if I'm just ranking the 2 best wide receivers on the team.
Yeah, no, I think that those rankings, like, again, like for each of these rankings so far, it's kind of been not like you said, a food chain. It's just been, there are kind of tiers to the rankings here where it's a little bit more easy than the NFC South so far. And then getting to tight end again, this is where it really, I mean, you just see a drop off and skill. Like this ranking is just tough. So Ethan, I'll let you go first for this one. I want to hear your rankings. Then
of course.
Yeah, I'll throw this one on you.
Yeah, I'm going to have the same rankings as you, actually. So you're really going first. I would have the same rankings, though. Actually, okay. But I would have Schultz at number 1. The body of work and everything. And then, like... This is where it gets interesting. I guess I would go Chig as of now.
Yep.
Like, I like Tyler Warren. I like the talent. I'm lower on him than most people are. Jake actually showed you like more than people thought last year. If you just picked him up in fantasy, like the last like 6 weeks or whatever, he's doing really good for you. I can tell you that first. But I do like Jake as a player regardless. I feel like he's pretty strong, good receiving threat as well. Tyler Warren, I think, is going to do a little bit of everything, but it might take him like a year or so to get going. This is more of like a projection of how much I think they're going to produce. Because at tight end, I feel like there's a lot of like theory-based stuff, like some prospect stuff that doesn't really translate. So it obviously it takes some guys some time. If I was projecting this for the next like 3 years or whatever, obviously Tyler Warren would be number 1. But this is kind of just like stepping into week 1. I would have Tyler Warren number 3, and then Brenton Strange like showed you can be a receiving threat sometimes, but pretty much no body of work to stand on.
Yeah, no, I have the exact same rankings. I'm glad I let you go first because, again, I think this is really we agreed upon all of the rankings for the AFC South. I think, like you said, Dalton Schultz, he's proven to be reliable for the Texans last year and the year before that. Chig, obviously, he's on the come up right now, but he is a reliable tight end for that team, and we know from Cam Ward in college that he likes using his tight ends, and I think he'll continue to do that in the NFL. And then Tyler Warren, like you said, I think, he could take a year or two to develop. I was high on him in the rankings when we did the rankings, but like I wasn't wowed as far as like this is the best tight end coming out of college. Like he was nowhere near Brock Bowers. And I remember saying in the tight end rankings, like this year, I feel like everyone's comparing Warren and Loveland to Bowers, or like they're trying to say that these guys are really, really great talents and prospects. I'm like, neither of them are Brock Bowers. I think they're both going to be solid, but they're not Brock Bowers. So it's just,
I think it's just compensation for people not being in enough on Bowers last year. And I wasn't in enough on Bowers. Pretty much no one was.
Really?
But
yeah,
you can't just
love
like,
Bowers, yeah.
You can't just like project Bowers' talent onto next year's tight end. Like that's not how it works.
Yeah.
And I would say for these, like I would say 1 through 3 are probably all in like the same tier of tight ends across the league.
Yeah. And then like Brenton Strange, he's a guy that I think Liam Cohen is excited for. I think he sees a role for Brenton Strange, but right now I'm not seeing it in comparison to these other 3 guys in that division. I think those 3 at this point in time, like I just can believe in at right now a little bit more than Strange. So we'll see. I will say before we end the episode real quick so that we have our rankings for after all of the division preview episodes, we're going to rank the divisions. So which division, Ethan, would you say is better, the AFC South or the NFC South?
I would go with the AFC South.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. So is that would you say it's because it's more like top, like lopsided at the top than like, would you say that they're talented, more talented?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's
fair. I have more faith in the Jags and the Texans than I do probably any of the NFC South teams. Like maybe the Bucks and Jags are kind of like on the same. Well, I'd probably project the Bucks for like more wins than the Jags, but besides that, like Colts should be all right. Like they have had like pretty bad situations and still like one.
They were still middle of the pack
away from the playoffs.
Yeah,
like 2 years ago. It's like, how did you even get here? Like, there's no way that looking at the roster, this team should be there. So I feel like they're just like a cockroach, man. They won't die. They won't go away. Mm-hmm. They're probably not going to get out of the middle. Like they're probably going to win like 7 or 8 games this year. And then like the Titans and like the Saints and the Panthers, like I would put the Titans probably below those teams, but it's really not by much. So.
Yeah. And then until we see things like in the season, we see maybe those teams outplay one another. Yeah, I think the AFC South, like you said, I just think that top, I mean, Texans are definitely above all the teams in the South. But I think the Bucks are still going to be like a solid team in the NFL, but I think the Jaguars are better than the Falcons, Saints, and Panthers. So we'll see how it plays out. I think the AFC South is probably just a very small notch above the NFC South, though. I think it's. I don't
think either of these divisions are very good either.
Yeah, you're not going into the season worried about these 2 divisions. I'll say that. I especially in the AFC.
Only worried about LaQuint Allen.
Only LaQuint.
You're worried about LaQuint Allen.
LaQuint Allen. Everyone be on the lookout for him. That you're going to be scared when he steps on the field. Yeah. No. Would you say? Okay, let's do a quick win predictions. Just you don't have to like. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be a well thought out. Just give like an estimate. Okay. Estimate win for each team in the AFC South.
Okay, so I'll go top to bottom. So Texans, I would say 11. Jags, I would say 10. Colts, okay. I'm gonna go 7 wins. And Titans, I'm gonna go. I'll go 5. I'll go 5.
Okay. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I would go 11 Texans, probably 9 for the Jaguars. Colts, I'll go. You said what? 7 or 8?
Mm-hmm.
You said 7.
Okay.
I'll go 6, and then the Titans. I think they're going to struggle. I think their schedule is a little bit easier because they came in last year. I'll give them 4. I'll give them 4 wins with Cam Ward coming in. But yeah, it's gonna be tough for them. Fair. South-wise, because I already had the predictions out. I went 9 wins for the Bucks, 8 for the Falcons, 7 for the Saints, which everyone hated on, which makes sense. Obviously, there's a little bit of bias there. You got to believe in Shuck a little bit. They also have one of the easiest schedules in the league. And then the Panthers, I think I went with 4 or 5 wins. I think it was 5 wins, just because I see them struggling a little bit again. I don't think their defense is still great. I think it'll improve this year. And then next year, again, it'll improve a little bit more. But they're on the rebuild still. So What are your thoughts? What wins would you give those teams?
Yeah, so I would probably still keep the Bucs at 10 wins, just because they're playing this division. Yeah. Falcons, I'd probably go 9, and then I had the Panthers ranked above the Saints. So Panthers, I would go. I'd go 7 wins, and then the Saints, I'm gonna go 6.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's not a bad win prediction at all for any of those teams. And yeah, I think the Bucs just really, they're a notch above every single one of the other teams in the South. So I expect them to go out and win. And props to them. They went and got Baker Mayfield. The Saints got Derek Carr, and we've seen how that played out. Like in the free agency period when that happened, Baker Mayfield was thought of to be lesser than Derek Carr, lesser than get.
By a lot.
He really, and he went in and he turned the whole culture around for that team, really turned the fan base around. The fan base was down in the dumps, and now they full out believe again like they did when Tom Brady was there, which is crazy. And then the Saints, the opposite. Saints fans were like, yeah. Saints were like, we got Derek Carr. I know, I was kind of excited. Like, obviously it's not Drew Brees, but we were watching a bunch of shit the years before Derek Carr came, and after Drew Brees, we were like, yes, Derek Carr, we finally have relevance again. And then it couldn't have happened any worse with Dennis Allen and Derek Carr. So Saints fans are down in the dumps, but we believe in Chuck.
For me, I believe in Chuck. Yeah. For me, like I hate just relevance. That's why, like, I remember my roommate coming in, I was heading out of the house. He's like, you got Derek Carr. And I was like, okay. And then I just walked right past and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, I can already tell how the next 3 years are going to go, you know?
See, I had some belief because I was like, I feel like our offense just has the weapons for Carr to succeed, because he is a quarterback where you're like, if you have Carr with the right situation, he's successful. But if you have a bunch of shit around him, he's not going to do anything. And I was like, we have solid enough weapons around him to succeed. And then last year we had the first 2 games where everyone thought we were winning the Super Bowl. I put a bet to win the division for $50 and I would have won like $300. And then the next game and everything after that, it crumbled. And now we are a completely new team. We are completely rebuilt in the coaching and quarterback positions. So we'll see how it all plays out. I'm excited for this season, but that'll be it for our AFC and NFC South predictions and previews. Next week, I think we'll do, Ethan, your pick. What division should we do next week?
Ooh, spicy. Let's go north. Let's go north. I feel like that's a good next one.
Okay, we'll do the north next. We'll go into that, and then after that, we'll figure out whatever the hell divisions we'll do from there. As always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Comment your thoughts on the rankings for any of the positions or the teams. If you guys want to disagree, win predictions, anything, comment down below. We'll respond. And you guys know where to find us on social media at Jenks Island and wherever you get your podcast at Jenks Island as well. We will see you guys next week.